Hello, everyone. Welcome to another WrestleFest film review.
WrestleFest.
Ah!
Oh, it's not a
Yes,
bad
indeed.
one this time.
Welcome to Brawling Badger Productions, aka Brawling Badger, aka the Brawling Badger Wrestling Film Channel thing. Indeed. And I have my lovely co host with me, the lovely Andy Walker,
Hello.
and we'll be reviewing one of the best wrestling films of all time, and possibly one of the best cultural films of all time. This is
Hmm.
something that still people talk about to this day, has influenced video games, popular culture, demonstrations, everything. And we'll get into why and the wherefores of all that in a little bit. And we'll be reviewing They Live. Have you got a little bit about the film for us, Andy?
I have got some things. I mean, obviously, director is John Carpenter, one of my favourite directors. Writer originally from a short story by a guy called Ray Nelson, and John Carpenter wrote the screenplay with him. Main cast is Roddy Piper, Keith David, Meg Foster, and lots of other people. Yeah, and it was made in 1988, which I was surprised about actually, because I thought it was earlier than that. I don't know why, but I had a
Yeah.
feeling it was earlier in the 80s than that.
Me
But
too. I did actually think it was a lot earlier than that. Yeah. And it had a budget of 3 million, I believe.
yeah,
And I saw on when you think, oh, I'm going to look this up. So let's play a little game, Andy. What do you think was the most expensive scene in the film?
ooh, I can't think. I don't know, to be
Right.
honest.
Well, I'm going to say this because I was shocked when I watched this, and because I watched a few things, and I thought I'm going to spark my interest about this and look up some facts. And it was the supermarket scene.
Really?
Believe it or not, yeah, because it had all real food in it, and
Right.
it had obviously all real magazines. It was a layout of a real shop. They built a real shop pretty much,
Wow.
and there was loads of actors there, so they had to pay all the extras. They had everyone in the makeup. They had the two different scenes merged into it. So yeah, that cost a lot of the money. Believe it or not.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
quite incredible.
Yeah, and also the fight scene, he just went, fight continues. So the
Yeah.
fight was actually 6 minutes long.
Yeah. What I was reading a thing from that Rowdy Roddy Piper put in wrote or did an interview where he was saying that the original fight was only supposed to last about 30 seconds.
Yeah,
But they rehearsed it for about a week before it. And John Carpenter was so impressed with their rehearsals, he just said, just go for it.
yeah, just go for it. So it turned into a 6 minute brawl. And
Yeah,
apparently, most of it was all their own stunts. They went, yeah, you're going to have a real fight in an alleyway. Just
yeah,
don't hit each other on the head.
yeah,
So obviously Roddy's doing some of his moves from WWF and all that, and the other guys like doing the real stiff punches, and they were really hitting each other apparently and
yeah.
everything.
From what I can work out, the week that they actually rehearsed it, Bradley Roddy Piper and Keith David, they went for it, but Piper sort of like he almost choreographed it. He kind of like showed him the moves and that sort of thing that he would normally do in the wrestling ring, and they kind
Oh,
of worked on from there.
oh wow!
Uh,
So that's how they made it. So they literally had a mini wrestling match in the middle of the film,
yeah, absolutely.
And
Um,
apparently all the scenes in the local area and all that, that was all real footage because they'd used up a lot of their budget on the smaller things. All the scenes where they were out and about and Rowdy Roddy Piper was walking around town and stuff is all real people
yeah,
and totally unfiltered. And that's what makes the film feel real. And I think that's part of the message is that this area is horrible and stuff like that. But then during the day it becomes cleaner. But then there's all this other message behind it as well. So it is a very political film,
absolutely.
And I love that part of it, how the cleanliness of the other, like when he puts the glasses on,
Yeah,
everything almost becomes a lot cleaner. But then there's the sinister edge behind it of you know,
yeah,
and even with the banknotes, it says on there, "I am your God" and stuff like that, and getting people to sort of procreate and obey and all this sort of stuff. All these messages behind it were really interesting. How in that universe it's all clean, and then in the real world, or the way they want you to perceive it, even it's all dirty and horrible and all that sort of stuff.
well,
Really interesting vibes.
I know that John Carpenter has said that he had a lot of trouble getting backing for it because a lot of people were worried that it was because of the fact that effectively it was having a go at like Ronald Reagan and his kind of like running of the country at the time.
Yeah,
And a lot of people were concerned that it was too political and that that they didn't want to back it. So he had a lot of trouble getting backing for it.
yeah. Which well, I'm glad they did in the end because it's an absolute masterpiece. It really is.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
I mean, I love John Carpenter anyway. I can't think of many of his films that I've seen that I haven't liked, and I think this is a brilliant film. Um, what I'm interested reading interviews with John Carpenter and with Roddy Piper is the fact that John Carpenter kind of like allowed Roddy Piper to have a lot of input into this film.
Oh,
Because the line that he uses, the famous line, when
yes,
he says like I've come here to chew bubble gum and kick ass and I'm all out of bubble gum.
yeah,
Apparently he had that in a notebook
yeah,
for years because he was going to use that with his wrestling stuff.
yeah.
And he showed it to John Carpenter and John Carpenter wrote it into the script.
That's fantastic, then, isn't it? Yeah. Some of the stuff that I mean, Roddy Piper was great at the improv, sort of like fight lines just before the matches and stuff. He was just as good at that sort of thing as Hogan.
Oh yeah.
He was very good with it.
And
I mean, it's not nowadays they don't really use that sort of thing, which is a shame. It's a lost art.
yeah, you don't get as much with the wrestling you now. You don't get as much with the characters kind of like standing there and talking as much.
No, they're more interacting with other people and allowing a storyline to develop, which is great. But then it sort of takes away the realism of a before fight thing.
I mean, I must
You
admit,
know?
I used to love the bit where you'd have some, what was it, Mean Gene Oakland interviewing
Yes.
people like the Roddy Piper or Randy Savage or someone like that, and just the whole kind of like over the top bravado of it all. It was brilliant.
Yeah. I mean that's still there, but they do change it up a bit. We've got the over the top stuff now is you've got a character called Danhausen, which is almost like it's like what if the Munsters had a wrestling family member, you know? He's
Okay,
like a part vampire, part demon, part God knows what. And he sort
okay.
of rides around in the Danhausen mobile that's a casket and has lots of sort of mini me's that help him fight.
Oh
And he
God,
curses people and all sorts of stuff. So yeah, they've proper jumped the shark now. You know,
yeah.
you know, which is quite bizarre because it's been so rooted in realism for a long time. The last 20 years, they've really rooted it in realism. And it was only Hogan's era and Piper's era that was like over the top,
I loved that though. I
you
thought it was
know.
brilliant. I mean, yeah, that was when I used to watch it all the time, and I'd love people like that Randy Savage and the Ultimate Warrior and all those sort of people who were really over
Yeah,
the top.
you know. Because
It was real sort of cartoon.
Vince McMahon's original vision was that anyone could be a wrestler in a way. So it was like that's why you had Hacksaw Jim Duggan. So
Mm.
his day job was to obviously chop down trees and stuff, and he had the Mountie. You know, they basically took original people's jobs and expanded on it later. It
Yeah,
was like, so what does your teacher do late at night? They
yeah,
wrestle.
yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
and what does the guy that works in the Undertaker's do? While he's doing at night time, he's a supernatural, superhero, anti-hero that goes around electrocuting people,
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
you know, and then it sort of quietened down a bit, and then they went into something a bit more serious after the Attitude Era, and now it just feels like they're going back to wacky stuff, which is great.
It's not, yeah, it's not a bad thing.
Not at all. And Rowdy Roddy Piper was one of my, old school
It's,
favourites. He was
it,
over the top, and he was literally like an extension to, how you might feel. But you do feel like you are watching. It's the same with Hell Goes to Frogtown. Even though his acting's got, wasn't, did you say Hell Goes to Frogtown was after?
yeah, they both came out around the same time, but I think Hellhound Goes to Frogtown was slightly after this one.
Yeah. It does feel like he was more invested. His acting was better. I think because he had the same views as Carpenter and they sort of leaned in a bit more together, he was definitely more invested in this project than
I think
Hell Goes to.
there was also the fact that originally John Carpenter was going to put Kurt Russell in this film.
Really, that does fit, yeah.
But he felt that he'd already done 3 films with him, so he should let me do something with somebody else.
Yeah.
There were lots of other names bandied about and all that sort of thing, but apparently John Carpenter was a bit of a wrestling fan, and after watching Roddy Piper at WrestleMania 3,
Yeah.
he decided to ask him to be in the film. But
Yeah.
the other reason that Piper might have been a bit more invested in this one was the fact that Vince McMahon didn't want him to do it.
Oh, right.
And he said to him, I'll find you another film where you'll earn the same sort of money, but don't do this one. And Piper said, no, I want to do this film. And McMahon said, well, if you do, then you're finished in WWF. So he said, fair enough. And he quit.
Yeah. Yeah. That's mad.
But because it was such a big success, on the back of it, McMahon basically rehired him.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. 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 And that was part of it, really. The whole thing of the wrestling is nowadays, I mean, the quickest example is Cody Rhodes left. He was, he left and joined AEW.
Right.
And then they saw how well he was getting on in AEW and rehired him in WWE, even though he put the money into making AEW exist. He still left and went back to the competition. So WWE is all about, we'll hire you for a bit, fire you, see what you do in the middle, and then if you do well on your own, we'll rehire you back.
The thing is, it's always been about the money, isn't it? It's always been about it.
Oh, yeah, it's always been about the money. But wrestling, was obviously you've got the old school stuff from back in the day, Rome and all that sort of stuff. But it was originally in America a circus act.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And then, and you had, after that, you had the territories. So wrestling was very big in America, just all around. So Mexico had its own territory, still has now, really. There's not much else about from AAA. You had the original TNA, you had the original WWF, and you had a few of these other original things, and they all sort of had their own territories. The places where they always performed.
Yeah.
I mean, even WCW in the 90s and early 2000s had a territory, because they had it in one of the big centres in Orlando, Florida. The big amusement parks. And then eventually WWE has gone around buying off all these little organisations.
Well, that's the thing.
Overtaking it all.
There are still organisations out there that where people wrestle under their own banner, but they're owned by the WWE.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Well, TNA's a big example of that, because WWE is putting a massive influx of money into TNA. They pretty much own TNA now, but not on paper,
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's always been about the money and who does best and who does how. And Hogan and Piper were the most clocked on.
Absolutely. Yeah. I was interested. A couple of things about the film. I was interested. Keith David was in a film called Clockers.
All right.
No idea what the film's about, but nothing. The only thing I know about it is that the character he played in Clockers was Andre the Giant.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't the character of Andre the Giant, as in the wrestler, but that was the name of his character in the
Oh,
film.
okay, that's unusual, isn't
It's weird. It's just like
it? Yeah, yeah.
I was just a bit kind of like, yeah. Um,
So, what
yeah,
do you think of the whole metaphor with the fact that they use the sunglasses to see the real world and vice
I
versa?
mean, it's an interesting kind of idea and an interesting sort of vehicle for showing the real world. I think it's quite interesting to use it sort of like you put on the dark glasses to see more because the whole thing is sort of like most of the time you look at people wearing dark glasses who can't see very well, or
Yeah,
they're either blind or they wear them to block out light, but they put them on to be able to see reality.
the yeah, yeah. So that was an unusual twist on it, but like you say, I really enjoyed it. The effects were great.
Yeah, yeah.
Roddy Piper was on top form, and the makeup and the masks that they were wearing, that's also very iconic still,
Yeah, absolutely.
You
Yeah,
know.
there was a lot about this that kind of like has fed into other films and that has been kind of influential in different ways
Yeah.
in
I mean,
different films and
there's
TV
also
shows.
the old, I mean, because they sort of use the line, I'm all out of bubblegum and stuff like that. There's a game called Duke Nukem 3D, and they use
Yeah.
that in there. So there's a
Well,
lot of different bits and pieces where
I
they've
mean
used
that
the
that that
cultural impact.
that line has been changed slightly, and it was be used in South Park and The Simpsons.
Yeah.
In different ways. So yeah, it has definitely had an influence on a lot of things like that. Um, the the other two other little trivia bits that I found quite interesting. There's a guy in this called George Flower who uses the
All right.
name Buck. So George Buck Flowers. He was also in Escape from New York and Back to the Future, and in this film and both of those films, he plays a bum who lives on the side of the street.
Oh, right.
It just seems to be, and he also played that part in a few other films. It seems to be his normal kind of role as an extra, a supporting actor, as he plays a bum who lives on the streets, which is quite weird. And the other thing was the communicators that they use at the end,
Yeah.
the communicator boxes that they're using at the end are exactly the same things that were used for the PKE meters in Ghostbusters.
Oh, okay. Wow.
And apparently they're also, I don't know what they're used as, but they're also in Suburban Commando, which is
Oh,
Hogan. Yeah.
oh, okay. Wow. So you learn something new, and that's quite an interesting one. And that leads us on to the one we'll be doing next time.
Oh, what's
Let's
that?
do Suburban
Yeah, we do
Commando.
Suburban Commando. Okay, we'll do that one then. Yeah, we'll see if we can find a really good one to follow that with.
Yes.
Yeah, I must admit I haven't seen it, so I don't know how bad it is.
Right, well, you're in for a treat.
I'm just, I'm just going from the fact that I haven't seen many films with Hulk Hogan in that have been great. So,
Yeah. Well, this actually features the Undertaker as well in a
oh
small
right,
role, so that's
okay,
we got a double header there, so
yeah,
it's always
something
good.
different.
All right then. Thanks
Well,
very much, Andy.
thank you very much.
So, what would you say? Let's give this a marking out of 10, just for old school sake. What would you
Oh,
say?
I've always liked this film. I would give this a solid 8 out of 10.
Yeah, me too. 8 or 9 out of 10, just for just for how original it is. And another fact before we go, Carpenter, they kept coming to once it started making money on VHS and the streaming or the cable and all that. Once it started making all that money, they actually said that we'll pitch another two or three films, and they wouldn't have it. He
No,
was quite insistent that Roddy Piper's character died at the end. There was no way to bring him back, and it was all about the fight of humanity and all that sort of stuff. Because they were like, "Oh, could we fix it so someone carried him and he goes to the ambulance and he's alive," sort of thing. and then that leads to 2 and 3 and blah blah. And he wouldn't have it. He wouldn't have it.
You like to hear something I found quite amusing, which was originally it was going to be released on the 21st of October,
Okay.
but it was put back to the 4th of November because the film company didn't want it to clash with Halloween 4,
Oh wow.
which was the first Halloween film that John Carpenter wasn't involved in.
Oh wow. Okay, that's an interesting one. Yeah. Oh. So there you go, guys. If you've got any facts about the film or you want to chat about the film below, hit us up and we'll have a bit of a discussion. And if you've never seen They Live, I recommend it. Really good film.
It is a great film.
And not only will it, enjoy it, it might open your eyes up to a few things you want to chat about in the comments as well, and political thoughts and stuff. We don't usually do that on the show, but this is a good example of let's have a little chat about how you feel this has impacted society. Yeah. All right then. Thanks, Andy.
Thank you. Thanks to everyone for watching.
That's it. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.